All right. Good morning, good evening, everyone. We can get started. Our conversation today is with Simran Kapoor, who I think all of you probably are already very, very familiar with. But if not, I will give a little bit of a background. Before that, a couple of quick housekeeping things. Please type away your questions in the chat window, and we'll make sure to answer as many of them as possible by the end. If you're not already a member of the Longevity Lab, it's very easy to join, and there are lots of good reasons to do so. Just scan the QR code, or we'll put the link in the chat window so you can join it from there. A couple of quick things. We have partnered with Helios. Helios is a physiotherapy company based in Pune. They have been around for 10 years. They're closely associated with the Sancheti Hospital. And what we're doing with them is we've created a recovery and rehab community, like a vertical sub-community, which is only focused on recovery and rehab. Their physical therapists will be the ones who will run the sessions, answer questions, and what happens is it's a 3-month program. The focus is on stiffness, pain, building strength, and just improved mobility. The way this program will work is before the program begins, there will be a one-on-one assessment for each of the individuals who are part of this program. After this baseline assessment is done, every week there will be 3 sessions where their physical therapists will walk people through the right exercises. At any given point in time during those 3 months, you can ask questions, and these physical therapists will answer them. And then there'll be a final assessment again done one-on-one. So although it's a community setting, the assessments at the beginning and at the end are one-on-one. The lead will be Dr. Sneha More, a very, very accomplished physical therapist. And the fees are about 2,000 rupees over a 3-month period, or $99 in the US or outside India for 3 months. So I would say it's pretty well priced by them. It starts November 10th. And so if you want to sign up, we'll send out the links on the community. Okay. The second thing is every few months we do our 28-day wellness challenge. And for those who have gone through it, it's a way to build a few lasting habits in a very, I would say, pretty sustainable way. Because it's one thing to tell somebody, go walk after a meal. But how do you integrate that into your day-to-day lives? And that's what the 28-day wellness challenge has proven out. We have now done this about 12 or 15 different times, and it's been really effective. So the 4 habits you want to focus on are the salad before meal, how to make salads interesting, fun, easy to make. Then there'll be a post-meal walk, hydration, and protein consumption. And as part of this, you can track your progress with our Kai bot. You can get all your questions answered by real doctors and dietitians during the 28 days. It starts November 5th, and it's $14.99 in India, at $129 outside. But if you're already a community member, it is that much cheaper. So the links are again at the bottom. We'll post that as well on the community and in the chat window. If you're interested, sign up. It's fun, it's interesting, and for people who have gone through it, they claim that it has definitely been helpful to integrate into their daily lives. All right, so that's that. Our guest for next week is Dr. Mary Stanley. She is a diabetologist. She's been working in the UK for more than 30 years in this space. Pretty straight talker on what it takes to integrate the right lifestyle habits into your daily routines. And I think if you're interested in anything to do with being pre-diabetic, diabetic, she'll be a wonderful speaker to listen to. All right, to our speaker today, Simran Kapoor. I think many of you, like I said, have already heard her. And before the talk, in fact, a few days back, I sent out the last interview we did with Simran. So you probably have watched that. But we had this session maybe about 6 weeks back, and it was one of the most inspiring sessions for everyone on the community. And in fact, by popular demand, she's back. I think the number of members who attended the session and asked for her to be back was very high. So I requested Simran, and she very graciously agreed to do that. So for those again that missed that first session, check out the video. But it was really amazing to hear how Ayurveda has basically made a very, very meaningful impact to Simran's life. And she is now spreading the message because it's become her mission. And to me, anyone who makes something that they believe in their mission, they do it in a very, very evangelistic way, and we all benefit from it. So as part of that, Simran started a company called Potion, where her stated mission is to bridge the gap between Eastern and Western, ancient and modern, natural and pharmaceutical medicine, by basically bringing credibility to all these different modes of treatment. And I think, to me, that's very powerful, because very often we hear, well, this is the only way to do things. But I think what you'll hear in the first talk as well as this one is there are various ways to address the same problem. Sometimes one approach may be better than the other, but the right answer lies at the intersection of many of these different principles. And so with that said, welcome back, Simran.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be back. We actually got to meet for the first time on accident on Saturday at a Diwali event, and that was really great to connect with you in person. And we chatted about how excited I was to kind of come back. This time is going to be very different than last time. You got to hear a little bit about me and who I am and my background. This time, Nikhil's really told me he wants like a full-on lecture. So I'm going to teach you like everything about Ayurveda, hopefully in like 20 minutes, and then leave room for questions.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. In fact, let's start with that. And right after that, I'd like us to jump a little bit, Simran, before we get into the questions, on how you've sort of aligned what Potion does with these principles. But maybe everyone, if you have a notepad, like just get ready to make notes, because over the next 20 minutes or so, Simran is really going to get into the fundamental principles. Because once you get that right, we can all build and start thinking for ourselves as to how we can mix and match various things. So, Simran, over to you.
It was funny because when Nikhil sent over some of the questions, it was a long list of questions. And the first question that he sent me, he listed like 15 words. He's like, can you talk about the fundamentals of Ayurveda? Doshas, Mahabhutas, Dhatus, Agni, Prana, Ojas. He like listed all of this. And I was like, okay, this is going to be a full-on lecture, but I'm happy to do it. So like he said, if you have a notebook, if you have a pen and paper, even if you want to just kind of absorb it all, maybe you have some tea next to you, just take a deep breath. We're going to dive in. My background before medicine, my first job out of college was Teach for America. So as a teacher, I love teaching. So I'm hopefully going to, my goal is by the end of this is so that you don't get overwhelmed by Ayurveda. I joked when I said I'm going to teach you everything about Ayurveda in 20 minutes. That's impossible. I could spend my entire life studying Ayurveda and still not scratch the surface. It is described as an ocean of wisdom, right? So you could be mining that ocean forever, but we can't see all corners of the ocean, right? So what I'm really going to focus on today are the big stroke principles. Almost like I'm going to show you these big ideas, and then we're going to zoom back in and relate to your daily choices. We're going to start with the cosmos, literally, and we're going to end with your next meal and your breath. Okay. So what is Ayurveda? And then also for me, why is it incredible? Okay. So Ayurveda is the Indian science of life. It's a complete system of medicine. And when I say complete system of medicine, it looks at human beings as living, breathing systems, right? It sees you as this unique ecology in constant conversation with nature, because we are nature. So everything that the cosmos is made up of, we are also made up of. Everything that we see in nature also exists within us. There's a core map that is known as the Tri-Doshic framework. You've probably heard of doshas, Vata, Pitta, Kapha. And what these really do is they describe patterns of movement and transformation and structure that shape things like hormones, digestion, mood, tissue repair. In Ayurveda, health really just means balance, a balance of your dosha, these elements, which we're going to dive into. I'm just giving you the big framework. So there's principles that guide that balance. So health means balanced doshas. It means strong Agni. We're going to get into Agni. Agni means digestive fire. It means well-nourished Dhatus. Dhatus are your tissues. Clear channels, Srotas. A mind that's grounded in sattva, that's like balance and peace, with abundant Prana, life force, Tejas, and Ojas. Ojas is more than life force. It's your immunity, a lot of what I focus on in my work. Radiant clarity and resilience. So you can see this is very different already than what we think about in Western medicine, which, I have a background in, where it's treating symptoms. Ayurveda is about all of these things. And it speaks in a different language than we see Western medicine. It speaks in the language of qualities, hot or cold, light or heavy, mobile or stable, because those properties predict how your habits, like food, even the season, emotional shifts in your physiology, it shapes how all of those properties can kind of come together. So it looks for the root causes then in your daily rhythm, your breath, your sleep, your relationships, your environment, your diet, and then it personalizes your food, your herbs, your routine, your breath work, your meditation, touch therapy, sleep timing, to really align with your circadian and seasonal intelligence. Because remember, I said, we are nature. So we have to work in harmony with nature. I'm sure you notice that you feel different in summer than you do sometimes in fall, than you do in spring. There's a reason behind that. So in modern language, it's basically systems biology, psychoneuroimmunology, because your thoughts shape your emotions, shapes the chemicals in your body, and that also shapes your immunology. So in practice, it's working on this terrain that underlines symptoms by calming inflammation, chronic inflammation, which we know is the root cause of most diseases, optimizing your digestion, because your digestion, it gives you the metabolization of all of the foods. That's what gives you life, right? It's the food is about how your digestion is optimized. Elimination, right? Are you pooping daily? Are you regulating daily? Are you sweating? Regulating the nervous system is also incredibly important. So it's not merely to treat disease, but it's to cultivate vitality, clarity, joy, which is so important, so that the body's innate intelligence can do what it's designed to do. So Ayurveda, in a sense, is a pattern science. It observes qualities in nature and qualities in the body, and then it restores harmony by applying the opposite quality with food, breath, light, movement, attention. And I'm going to repeat the same thing again and again because I want you to really absorb this. The method is actually quite simple. Like increases like, opposites restore balance. It's testable in daily life. Let's give you an example. I eat cold foods late at night, maybe ice cream or something cold like that. Guess what? I'm going to feel cold and heavy when I'm going to bed, maybe the next day, even in the morning. You're going to feel that kind of go over. Now you eat a warm, spiced lunch at midday, you're going to feel steady and clear all day long. Ayurveda is credible because it predicts how qualities behave and gives actions and change, the actions that can actually change that outcome. And what I love about Ayurveda is I actually believe that there's so much in Western science and Western modern biology that mirrors and helps us translate that. So we're going to use a bit of both today, poetry and physiology, to belong together. And, the other thing I'd say about Ayurveda is, like I said, it's an ocean of knowledge. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed by it. I want you to fall in love with it because it's the understanding of our own bodies. It's our understanding of how we move through the world. So it's mind, body, spirit. And one of the most beautiful things I discovered, when I switched from Western medicine to learning about Ayurveda, is that it is science, which I love, philosophy, these greater questions in life. What is the purpose of life? how do I deal with wanting to forgive someone, but I don't really feel like it, all the way to what should my next meal be? How do I balance these sort of things? And spirituality. What is the purpose of life? These are things that are actually not answered in the hospital. So it's really important that we remember that this living, breathing system, it explains a lot more than me telling you what to put on your plate. So the first word that Nikhil gave me was the Mahabhutas. What is that? It's the 5 great elements. So as I mentioned, we are made of the same things that the cosmos is made up of. Now we can break these down into elements. What are the 5 elements? Ether or space, air, fire, water, and earth. These are not chemicals, these are qualities. Remember, everything about Ayurveda is about qualities that you can feel. So how do I describe this? Someone is like, what do you mean we have space in us? Or what do you mean we have fire in us? Let me give you an example. We cannot function without any of these elements in the body. Now, space is ever present. We know an atom is 99.999999% space. The rest of it is matter. So we are actually more space than we are matter. Now, you don't believe me? Let's look at the human body. Space is the container that allows life to move and communicate. Without space, you couldn't actually do anything, right? Sound couldn't travel. Space is the container. So you feel it in the body, in your lungs, your sinus cavities, the alveoli, the gut lumen, even the space in between the synaptic clefts where their neurotransmitters, they have to go. That all of these are spaces. We need space in order to live, to exist, space to communicate our truth, right? So we're going from physical body all the way to more philosophical, but it's all the same thing. Air, second element, is movement and variability. You'll feel it in your breath is the number one thing you'll feel, air, right? Peristalsis, again, movement, the dance of heart rate variability, neural signals, very beautiful and poetic ways to describe this. The next element is fire. Fire is the element of transformation. Now, we've always known this, right? You cook things and it transforms from one thing to the other. So it's not just transformation, it's actually also precision. So you'll feel it in transformation. Let's think about our gut, right? Digestive fire is the first thing we think of. It's gastric acid, it's bile, it's enzymes, the things that transform. It's in cellular flame, it's in the mitochondria. So that's fire. Water. What is water? Lubrication. That's the first thing to think of. It's also cohesion, right? How water molecules stick together. How do you feel that in your body? What are examples of water? Your plasma, your lymph, your saliva, your mucus, the synovial fluids, the tears that we experience, right? The sweat, all water. Earth. Earth is structure, steadiness. So you feel it in the bones, cartilage, fascia, muscle tone, the grounded mood that lets you meet your day. So it's all of those things. Now, let's think about application, because we're talking about big concepts. I want to narrow down a little bit more. When space and air are excessive, you could feel scattered in your mind and maybe dry in your skin. You add structure, warmth, and moisture to balance those out. When fire is excessive, you feel hot and sharp, maybe irritable, right? What do? You add coolness. I know that in the summer in India, I can't do it. I can't go to Dubai in India. Dubai is where my husband's family is from. I can't do it because I feel irritable. It's too hot, right? So these qualities are coming out. So what do I want to do? I want to be in the AC, right? I want to drink something cooler. I want to put a cold towel on my head, right? So you add coolness, spaciousness, because I'm so irritable and it's so hot. I feel so tight and claustrophobic. I need space and I need lightly sweet and bitter foods to balance. Now, when water and earth are excessive, you feel heavy and slow. So what do you do to balance that? Add warmth, add spice, add movement, right? When you're stuck, what's the best thing that you can do? Get unstuck, right? Start moving. 1 minute of awareness before your meal lets you choose the needed opposite. What we're doing today is we're breaking down this ocean of wisdom into qualities so that you can intuitively know what your body needs. Now, we're going to get into the next word that Nikhil brought up, which is doshas. When qualities move together, they create function. Ayurveda calls these functions doshas. So they're functions, they're not fate. I think a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions. I'm going to first talk about doshas and then we'll get into a little bit more. So Vata is air and ether. It's movement, it moves. So it's about logistics, it's about communication, think about breath, circulation, nerve conduction, motility. When Vata is high, you'll see what? Dryness, cold, maybe variable appetite. I know that I'm Vata prone, and so sometimes I'll just skip meals, and that makes me more anxious. So how do you balance Vata? Warmth, moisture, regularity, routine, and rest. Pitta, energy of transformation. So that's fire and water. It's acids, enzymes, bile, metabolic focus, sharp attention. You think of, most times people think of Pitta and they think of ambition, right? When Pitta is high, maybe you're eating spicy foods a lot, acid, reflux, heat, rashes, irritability. How do you balance that? Coolness, timing, gentle bitters, early dinners. So Kapha, last one, that is water and earth. It protects and it builds. A lot of people give Kapha like a bad rap. It's not true. We could not exist in this world if we didn't have Kapha predominant people. If you think of anyone in your life who is the pillar of strength that you go to, they're Kapha. We can't exist without them. It's anabolic storage, it's joint lubrication, it's emotional steadiness. When Kapha is high, you'll see heaviness, mucus, edema, slow mornings, edema, slow mornings. What you want to do again is apply the opposite of that. So lightness is the opposite of heavy, warmth, stimulation, morning movement. Now, everyone asks about doshas. What dosha am I? I'm only this, I'm not that. Not true. Biggest misconception is that we don't carry all of them. We do. We carry all of the elements that exist in nature. So all of the elements that exist in nature also exist in us. Now, when we talk about dosha, it's about a constitution of your baseline mix. And I can get into extreme detail. I'm not going to, but essentially you're at the moment of your birth is what is known as your prakriti. Think about it. I love relating this because there's actually science about doshas and then your genetic blueprint. But essentially, you know how you have a genetic blueprint that also changes based on expression of the DNA, but you have this DNA that's your genetic blueprint. That doesn't change. The expression of it does change, but that doesn't change. It's the same with your dosha. It's called a prakriti, meaning at the time of your birth, which is based on all these different factors, how your mother's pregnancy was, what she ate during the pregnancy, what the season was, all of those things matter into giving you your unique mix. Now, your current state today, that expression of that mix is called your vikruti. Now, that is often for most of us out of balance. So our whole goal is what's our prakriti, what's our current state of imbalance, and how do we harmonize the two? That's how we get to good health. So you support this constitution, you treat the aggravation that is present now. What are the things that also impact that? Seasons, your age in life, the time of day, they all tilt the mix. What you eat. Springtime, for example, has more kapha. Summer has more pitta. Late fall and winter have more vata. Morning, now we're talking about from season, we're talking about the season of the day. Morning carries more kapha, midday carries more pitta, late afternoon carries more vata. You want to align the rhythm with what the body needs, and it's less effort when you align with these rhythms. We're going to talk about dinacharya as well. Function requires fuel and fire. So that is digestion and metabolism, and metabolism, and Ayurveda calls that Agni, which is the next word we're going to get to. We're going to talk about now Agni, Ama, Malas. Hopefully there's no questions on the description so far. We've all heard about Agni, your digestive fire. It's your power to transform. So its physiology includes acid, enzymes, bile flow, motility, microbial balance, mitochondrial throughput. When your Agni is steady, when your digestive fire is steady, you feel hungry at the right times. You're not having those cravings in the middle of the night. First of all, we should be sleeping at a certain time because based on what the dinacharya is, which is your daily schedule. But your whole goal in Ayurveda is to really not just balance everything, but it all goes down to your Agni, your digestive fire, right? How you're getting your nutrition from your meal. How to digest without drama is what we say sometimes in Ayurveda, right? Like without the IBS and all of those things. How do you feel clearer after a meal instead of sluggish and lethargic? When your Agni, your digestive fire is low, you will feel sluggish. You'll feel cold. You'll feel foggy. When your Agni is too sharp, it's too much going on, acid reflux, all that stuff, you'll feel hot, irritable. Now, when your Agni is variable, you'll alternate between fasting and overeating. So we want to create a little bit more balance. Opposite of Agni, well, I wouldn't say opposite. Separate to Agni is called Ama. Ama, short form, toxins. It's really what is remaining after the transformation is incomplete. So if there's an incomplete process, that is a buildup of toxins. So think of unprocessed substrates like your endotoxin burden, oxidized fats, sticky metabolic trash, if you will. You notice the way you notice that you have a lot of ama in Ayurveda, we diagnose with your skin, your hair, your nails. We look at your tongue. Is there coating on your tongue? That's also indicative of a lot of ama. So you notice a coated tongue, gas, bloating, brain fog, change in body odor. Body odor is a big, significance of that. Stools that smear, all of these things show there's a buildup of toxins in the body, which is transformation is incomplete. Okay, so we know we're having issues with not just Agni, but we're having issues with getting rid of that as well. Now, malas are healthy eliminations. How does your body eliminate? It eliminates through stool, sweat, urine, and there's tears. There's many different ways that we eliminate, but those are the big ones. When they stagnate, meaning they can't move through properly, you have constipation, all these things. When they stagnate, these channels clog. When they flow, the signals in your body lands. So obviously we don't want clogging. So our goal is to have these healthy eliminations. Now, what are some applications you can use today? Big part about some of the things we've already covered. Quick concepts to write down. Make midday your most complex meal. The sun is highest in the sky, your digestive fire is highest. So you want to have your most complex meal, all those carbs, all the things that you really want to experiment with. Don't do that for breakfast. Don't do that for dinner. Do it at noontime. Eat seated without screens. So important. We just don't realize how important it is for us to be conscious and present with our food. We digest first with what? Our eyes. So if you're on your screen or you're watching TV and you're eating, you're going to have that ama buildup, right? Incomplete transformation. So eat seated without screens. Ayurveda will always, 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 just like a rule of thumb, favor warm over cold. And there is reason for that. Think about even when you see things in the fridge, they clump, right? What happens in the cold? Things clump. You don't want that to happen. You want things to move through. You want a lot of lubrication in your body, right? You don't want things clogging. So always favor warm cooked plants over cold salads, for example. I do once in a while eat, cold salads. I do like them, to be honest, but then I'll learn how to balance that because I really like a salad. So, but warm cooked food, like making some broccolini, is much better, just kind of steaming it or cooking it, because it actually helps your digestive system work better. And it's not working as hard. So especially if your digestion is weak, please avoid the uncooked raw foods and instead opt for lightly cooked. Add digestive spices, especially if your Agni is low. Ginger, great digestive spice. Cumin, coriander, fennel, cardamom. Use simplification when there's a lot of ama. Then you can reintroduce some diversity. Okay, I know that I've talked about, I think previously I might have talked about 32 plants a week. I'm really focused on that. But if you have a lot of toxic buildup, it's like maybe go on a khichdi diet. Really reduce the variety, simplify it, get things moving better, and then reintroduce that diversity. Never reuse. I think there was a question in there. I'm just going to touch on it here. Never reuse oils. Okay. Never reuse fry oil. I see that a lot in our culture. Please don't do that. essentially the properties in the oils, they disrupt. So when you keep using them, they actually become quite toxic to the system. So it's also the quality of the oils and stuff that we use are important. Store oils in a cool, dark place. And then we're building clarity. We're not adding residue. So when transformation is steady and waste moves out, then the body can work on the things that we want it to work on, like building resilience. And in Ayurveda, we call this Ojas. And that's something that I really want to touch on today. But first, let's start with Prana, Tejas, then we'll get to Ojas. Prana, everyone's heard of it, right? We talk about Prana. It's your life in motion. It's your life force. How do you know you're dead? You're not breathing. Prana is your life force due to your breath. Now, it's also nerve conduction. It's subtle attention. All of that is prana. Too much prana, too much life force, you'll feel jittery. Too little, you'll feel flat. You'll see that in end of life, right? A lot of people they're having less and less life force in their body. Nasal breathing, daylight, rhythm will all feed the prana wisely. Tejas, intelligent fire. So we already know there's some pivot to this. Sharp, digestion, insight, precise metabolism. Too much Tejas, and again, these are qualities. You feel the burning and you feel that irritability. Too little, you feel dull. Maybe in relationships, my God, like there's no intelligent fire here. It all feels so dull. How can you change this? Well, you want to really introduce a schedule into your day. You want to eat bitters at lunch. You want to make sure you have low light in the evenings because that will help keep things, the right size. Last is Ojas. Ojas is your reserve of resilience and glow. In modern medicine, it kind of mirrors neuroimmunology. So that's why I talk a lot about immunity with Ojas. Most people completely do not understand the immune system and how important it is. And your immunity, they think of it as just as defenses. It is so much more than that. It is also your luster. It is your strength. It is your vitality. It's shown in your body, not just in actually, your Ojas is not just the neuroimmune robustness. It's also your coherence of your heart rate variability, which I know you talk about a lot with this group. It's also the deep sleep architecture, micronutrient sufficiency, collagen integrity, even like your pro-social calm. Prana brings input, Tejas kind of transforms that input, but what remains, that's your Ojas. Think of it like your savings account. Strong Ojas means what? It means that when you're sick, you recover very quickly. You don't even get sick that often. It means that you sleep deeply and you feel rested after your sleep. It means that you meet stress in daily life with steadiness. Low Ojas means small stressors can flatten you, colds will find you, sleep is brittle, mood goes gray. It's all the wrong things. So the application here is build Ojas with warm, nutrient-dense foods, a little ghee or sesame oil, mineral-rich broths. I'm going to talk about potion at some point, hopefully. Stewed spiced fruit, soaked nuts, dates, earlier dinners, social safety, nature time, resistance training. Immunity is more than defense. It's the quality of your repair. And Ojas is that repair that you can literally feel. You feel it, right? After a workout, you feel energized versus totally depleted. That's your Ojas. So function shapes tissues, tissues build Ojas, and Ayurveda maps these tissues in seven layers called Dhatus. And I think, is this the second last one? I might skip the stages of disease if people are finding this too much, but I'm going to quickly talk about Dhatus, Srotas, which are the channels, and then I think I'm going to end this lecture with the 6 stages of disease, and I think we would have gone through pretty much everything. Okay, so I'm going to go through this one really fast. So the Dhatus are the tissues in your body, the tissues that build your resilience or your Ojas. So the first one is rasa, plasma and lymph. Plasma and lymph. Think of hydration, satiety, ease. That's all that plasma, lymph. Second tissue, blood, warmth, color, drive. That's how you should think about your blood. The third one is mamsa, muscle, tone, posture, strength. That's how you can think about muscle. The next one, meda, is adipose. Adipose is your fats. So what do you think of your fats? Hormones, cushion, insulation. The next tissue, the fifth one, is your bone and cartilage, your asthi. So when you think about bone and cartilage, you think about structure, your nails, your teeth, your bones, all those things. The second last one is your marrow and nervous system. When you think of your marrow and your nervous system, you think of recovery, you think of cognition, you think of your calm power. And then the last one, which we'll get into with the question that you have on perimenopause, is your reproductive essence, your last tissue. Now, reproduction is not just fertility and deep repair, it's also creativity, it's creation. So the way I want you to think about these tissues, why did I even bring them up and why did I bring them up in this order? Your tissues, each one of them feeds the next. So somewhere in between, we talked about bone and cartilage, your nails and stuff. Say your nails look very dull, your hair is very brittle. You don't just jump to the one previously, which is the hormones and the cushion and the fat. You actually go to the first one. So if something is brittle along the line, you go to the first one, back to the plasma and the lymph, and you nourish the plasma and the lymph with what? Hydration, minerals, electrolytes, protein, daylight, sleep, and then the later tissues get repaired. So you start with one and you work your way down. So the last thing I'll say that before we get to kind of stages of disease is these channels. So tissues have to work because there's the plasma. How do we get all the way to reproductive essence and nervous system? Tissues work through channels. Ayurveda calls them Srotas. Clear channels means clear signaling. Again, we don't want blocks. So these are the pathways, the channels that carry your air, your water, your nutrients, the hormones, lymph, even your feelings, your emotions. So in modern medicine, you'll think of these channels as, like ducts, vessels, microcirculations, lymphatics. Lymphatics become huge, fascia, gut barrier. That's how things travel through. Even your attentional bandwidth between things. These are all channels. When the channels are open, signals can arrive. When the channels are clogged, noise arrives before you even know that the disease is there and then it gets a name, right? So how do you open up these channels? Post-meal walks, adequate fiber. Sorry, that was so random that my mic went off. Thank you. Where did I get stuck? Channels clogged, noise arrives before you get a disease. Post-meal walks, I think I said nasal breathing all opens up the channels. Your hygiene is tongue scraping, all of these things to lubricate and open up these channels. Keep fresh oils. Again, don't like reuse oils because I believe that was a question that you had. So that's how we want to make sure that things aren't clogged and things are moving. Now we look at how imbalance becomes disease. The best part about Ayurveda when we're thinking about disease, so it's not just about treatment. Ayurveda has all of it. It's not just treatment of diseases, but it's just how to stay in balance and how to be harmonious. And as I talked about in the beginning, it's living this vibrant life. So we know because of the way Ayurveda structures things, there are actually different stages of disease. In Western medicine, when we would diagnose people, it's like either you got it or you don't got it, right? But there's this whole in-between stage where maybe your diet and your lifestyle is causing these effects, but hey, you're not diabetic yet because it hasn't reached a certain A1C. But you're well on your way to diabetes, and we all know it. How do you stop that? Okay. So there's 6 stages of disease in plain language. The first, and I won't use the terms because some of them, I will be honest, I have a little bit of harder time pronouncing. Sometimes I know I've pronounced them wrong. So I'm just not going to pronounce them for you, but I'm going to give you like a little context here. So first, these qualities, someone wants to ask about potion. I promise after this, we'll talk about potion. So first, these qualities accumulate in their home, meaning at a specific organ. They accumulate in one or a certain cell, right? Accumulate in their home. Then they aggravate. After they aggravate, they start slipping into the channels. They slip into the channels, they go and they find a weak spot. That weak spot is clearly there, and now it's growing. Now the disease is present. This is when we identify it in Western medicine. And then the last is it complicates, right? It spreads. So think of it as like one cancerous cell, and then it's growing, and then it starts to spread. It finds a weak spot, and that's where it proliferates. And now we know the disease is clearly present. And now it might be going everywhere, right? So these are the things that Ayurveda knows. There's these stages and we can identify them earlier. So the modern echo is we know that there's this like allostatic load that builds and the network spreads the stress. Susceptible tissues express our symptoms. And our job as human beings, our job with our own body is to notice early and apply the opposite quality before a name of that diagnosis appears. Watch your bowels, watch your skin, watch your sleep, watch your energy, watch your mood, watch your appetite, and adjust it with your food, with your breath, with light, with movement, with your conscious attention. So I hope this primer was helpful. It was a bit long, but we covered a lot of ground. And now we can talk about, I think there was a question about potion. Hopefully this was.
Yeah, no, Simran, this was amazing. There's a lot to take, and what we are doing is we'll be providing show notes when we send it out in a couple of days, so that along with the recording, if someone just wants to see what the concepts were, they'll all be there. So the fact that you all put it in one place, I think is excellent.
Yeah, and I'm happy to send the glossary afterwards of all of the words that I covered, because these are the high level words. I mean, maybe the couple that I didn't touch on was like sattva, rajas, tamas, but you just want to really focus on sattva, which is like the purity of the mind. It's basically being balanced. And those are all the big words you're going to hear in Ayurveda, and hopefully that makes you feel much more knowledgeable when someone talks about it.
Yeah. Now, and I think the point is not for everyone, and this is my message to the group, is not for everyone to sort of remember these terms. It's to be aware that there is a fundamental basis on which all of this is being built, so that now later in the conversation, when we talk about, so why does this not work, or why should we be doing this? Now we can connect it all together.
Exactly.
So before we get into like specific questions around that, I know there have already been a couple of questions about potion. Simran, can you just talk about how you have married these concepts with practical applications?
So the biggest thing, the reason why potion even exists today, and I just did a post on this yesterday because we were nominated for the India Beauty Award. So I actually flew to India a couple of weeks ago. I was in Bombay. It was such a surreal experience, and also kind of really what I want to do with a topic as serious as health. Introducing it even into the beauty space is actually exactly what I want, because when we think about health, we're usually thinking about it the same way we think about immunity, in the context of I am sick and I need to get healthy, or it's a little bit more serious. The same way I want you to think about Ayurveda is the same way I want you to think about immunity. I want you to fall in love and realize how beautiful it is, and that it's a daily practice. Your immunity is a daily practice. When I got cancer, I knew it's a disease of inflammation. What does Ayurveda say about inflammation versus what does it say about immunity? How do you build immunity? We talked about Ojas. Ojas is that resilience. It's your savings account, right? How do you know you're financially stable and healthy? If you have zero in the bank, in the savings account, I'm sorry, but you're not going to be able to live a healthy, happy life, because you're going to be constantly stressed. Now you got a lot in the savings account. My God, you feel balanced, you feel safe, right? You can experience life from that place. Immunity is that savings account, but it's more than that. It's the glow that you get. It's the radiance that you get. It's called like the luster. It's your strength. It's your power, but it's also your defenses. And so I really got into potion because I knew I needed to build my immune system. There are a lot of things that I did. I did a lot of meditation. I teach about meditation quite a bit. I did breath work. I started taking all these walks in nature. I got very spiritual. I just started thinking about myself and the cosmos and how we're all connected. Those are the things people didn't care about though. They're like, okay, but what do you eat and what do you take every day? And so one of the things that I did is I changed my diet and my lifestyle to be more seasonal. I did go completely vegan for a while. Now I've reintroduced fish, but it was all about the spices and the herbs. And I was like, okay, immunity is a daily practice. Along with all the other things that I'm doing, Ayurveda has these excellent formulations. You might have heard of Chavanprash. You might have heard of Karda. You might have heard of, so what happened is there are all these different formulations for immunity. And every time I would get an Ayurvedic doctor or some sort of coach, they would keep giving me the same ingredients again and again and again. And I had like all these bottles by my bedside. And so one day I just got really frustrated and I started thinking a lot more about, okay, there are all of these, whether it's Chavanprash or Karda, how are they made? What's the research behind them? And that's really how the first formulation of potion happened. I can't take full credit, meaning like I've taken it from these ancient wisdoms, and there's certain pairings that happen in them. There are certain spices that are tridoshic, meaning every single body type, every single person benefits from it at all ages as well. For example, something like Chavanprash, you start giving to children at a very young age. Why? It nourishes the tissues, right? All of the tissues. It gives you that resilience and that ojas. And so the problem is a lot of those things in the past, they were high in sugar because our diets were so different. And today, most of them have chemicals and they have heavy metals. And obviously, given that I had cancer, I wanted the cleanest, best, most potent thing possible. So my mom and I made the first version of potion together, chanting for hours and hours and hours, blessing every step of the process as we measured herbs and all of that. There are 13 whole plant herbs and spices in potion. Amla, ashwagandha, black pepper, cardamom, Ceylon cinnamon, and that's important because it's from Sri Lanka, clove, echinacea, flaxseed, giloy, ginger, passion flower, tulsi, turmeric. They're all USDA organic certified. Even how we source the herbs and spices is like pretty powerful because in Ayurveda, we believe not just the science and the potency of these herbs, it's also the energy that goes into growing them. So it's the whole process, right? Like when you cook, it's not just the clean ingredients and the oils and stuff that you use that we'll focus on, it's the energy that you cook it with. So that is the exact same process that I use for potion, and I started taking it every day. And today, I rarely get sick. Like rarely. It's been 7 years. I can count the number of times I've been sick, and it's quite minimal. And every time I get sick, I recover really fast. So for example, I was going to India and, everyone around me was sick and I had an itchy throat. I just took a lot of potion and I was fine. I was nervous because like I have this big event going on, but I was fine by the time. And that's what's so beautiful about Ayurveda is like these natural herbs and spices are so powerful. We've discredited them. And as we've discredited nature, we're kind of seeing this, this issue happening between us and, nature, because we're disrespecting nature. We're seeing a climate issue, means we're disrespecting ourselves. We're seeing health issues. And so nature does have a lot of power. You do need to incorporate it in daily life.
Wow. Amazing. And I know you've spoken about this last time, Simran, but maybe it'll be worthwhile for you to mention it again for the group, is that right now, potion is available or was available then only in the US. You were shipping only in the US. Is it now available in India or not?
We have some small stock. It's going to take a while for me to do the whole, process and stuff to kind of get it overseas. And because we're a young brand, we are mainly shipping in the US. We have some stock in Dubai and some stock in Bombay. But so if you are in Bombay or you're in Dubai, I can tell you the stores to go to or how to kind of get the product. But otherwise, we do ship in the US, and that is the unfortunate part. But I have been flexible because people all over the world message me and they really want potion, and everyone finds a way. And sometimes I will take it in my suitcase and like drop it off to a location, and then people, pick it up. And so I am very creative on how we can get you a potion. I do think everyone should try it. It's really changed my life. And I can't even believe that, this one, we haven't even done any paid marketing. So the fact that like it's reaching all over the world is kind of wild to me. And the reason why is because it works. I can't really take credit for this ancient, science, but I feel very grateful that I can share it with people.
Yeah, no, we'll find a way to make sure that if community members want it, we'll find a way to get it to them.
Yep, exactly.
So I know there are questions coming up, and we have a hard stop in the next 9 minutes. So maybe, we had a long list of questions that Simran and I had discussed. We'd go through, but instead of going through those, we'll probably just do community questions
Okay, great.
being asked on the side. So quick, I'll read through them. Aniket said, he just mentioned that Poshan translated in Hindi or other Indian languages is Poshan. Poshan means nurturing, so appropriate. Just a simple observation. I think I've already answered Sujata's question. Nadia said, thank you, Simran, so amazing. Sujata's question, how do you reduce inflammation from your body?
Okay. I gave this example to someone the other day because we talk about inflammation all the time. And it's no shame, you guys, if you don't really know what it is, because we talk about it so much, but we don't quite know what it is. And so I'm going to give you an analogy to understand the difference between chronic inflammation and acute inflammation. So acute inflammation, you get a cut, your body signals the alert, fire drill, let's go to the cut. And I can talk about that too. It goes to the cut and it starts to do the repair, right? So it's signaling. Think of it like a fire alarm, and then the fire alarm goes off. Now, what is chronic inflammation? Do you guys have, there's fire alarms all over the world, but I think Nicola could talk about, at least in the US, like the fire alarm, if it goes off, it is so annoying if you cannot turn it off, right? So what happens in the first few minutes? My God, like make it stop. Now think about if that alarm was sounding constantly, it didn't go off, meaning it wouldn't stop. What would happen? Nicola, what would happen if the fire alarm just would not go off for 24 hours and you had to stay in the house?
To drive you crazy, and
it would drain you completely, right? So over time, if that alarm keeps sounding, the fire alarm, and for chronic inflammation, it could be all over the body, those alarms are sounding, your body gets literally drained. All the energy leaves it. So that's the best way I can describe chronic inflammation. The reason it's called the silent killer is it's the body's fire and no one is putting it out, and it just burns through. So it harms us when it's great when it's acute, you get a cut or an injury and you get that cleanup. But when it's constant and unfocused, it really harms us. Ayurveda says chronic heat, stagnation, residue that disturbs the Agni, blocks the channels of Srotas, irritates the tissues of Dhatus, depletes the Ojas, that is all inflammation. We can lower unnecessary inflammation by clearing the residue, restoring steady digestion, opening channels, aligning with light, rebuilding Ojas gently, okay? Now, inflammation can be caused by many different ways. We just think it's food. It's the products that we're using. It's the environmental toxins. It is, people ignore the fact that moodiness, irritability, all of those things, that's actually inflammation as well. People don't realize dementia, Alzheimer's, anxiety, depression, that is chronic inflammation coming out in your mood and your mindset. So even with constant stress, and I would say not even with, constant stress is the #1 creator of chronic inflammation. We are all constantly stressed. You do need to take a beat. You do need to take a break. If there's one thing that you take from today's lecture, it's to give yourself space and to calm yourself down, because your chronic stress is causing you inflammation in your mind. And toxic relationships, people don't talk about that enough, like creating boundaries from those things. Emotional inflammation is one of those silent things nobody talks about, but I've talked about this with my doctors. I was like, what research do we have? And they say, we haven't done any research, but what we can tell you is we know it exists, and we know that it exacerbates and worsens all diseases. And so that's something I would kind of say is really think about those things that are causing inflammation in your body and in your mind. Okay. Next question. I think, did I answer that one? I think so.
Yeah. How can we try and fix constipation? Is there a connection with your emotions and facing digestive issues like constipation?
Absolutely. I actually focus on this a lot. When most people ask me how I heal from cancer, I'm going to be honest. What I know deep down, yes, I changed my diet and my lifestyle. It was truly my emotions that made me sick, right? It was my deep attachment to my mission of helping the world, not feeling enough, not loving myself. Your body can hear, and this is science proven. I believed it before I saw the evidence, and I'm so glad that I did, because I knew deep down that I caused cancer in my body. There's no evidence of that outside, but I knew that I had cancer before anybody diagnosed me. Everyone told me I was crazy. And someone asked me last night, they're like, wait, how did you know? What were the signs? What were the symptoms? And there really weren't until a month before my diagnosis. But I knew deep down, my intuition told me, because I didn't love myself and I was hurting so deeply. Your emotions, every emotion, and there was actually, I might have talked about this last time, but Candace Pert won the Nobel Prize for this understanding of neuroimmunobiology, psychoneuroimmunobiology. And that's essentially that every single emotion you has a chemical messenger that has a cascade of events. So your emotions actually have impacts on your body. Now, what is the single most important act of resistance you can do in this life? Is to enjoy it. Literally everything in this life is causing us to feel something that is not self. And the greatest act of resistance is to really enjoy your life and to fall in love with it. I'm an entrepreneur, which is not an easy thing, but it doesn't matter to me that I have all of these things that are stressors, because I've gone through a first business and doing things the wrong way when I had cancer. And I've realized that the most important thing I can do is really believe that creating joy actually has all of the best impacts in life. If you're having constipation, it means you have blocked emotions on Ayurvedic level, right? Constipation in your bowels can also be constipation in releasing, right? It's your channels are blocked, and those channels can be blocked with emotions. I don't think we give it enough credit. I'm actually interested in all of the research that's coming out in this space. I know for a fact that the reason I healed is because I fell in love with taking care of myself. I felt like I was worthy of it. I felt like I could put myself first. And it's still a loving process. When you have something that's so deep seated, don't just think that, there's a light switch. I think of everything in this life as circular. Sometimes what really bothers, and this is the last note I'm going to end on because I think it's a really powerful one. Have you noticed in life that sometimes you have to revisit things and you're like, damn it, I thought I learned this lesson already. Like, I thought I learned how to deal with my mother-in-law or whatever it is, and now I'm still triggered. I thought I've grown, but that you have grown. It's just you're meeting it at a new level. I think of it as a spiral. And now you're meeting them at higher and higher levels. And the revolutions get bigger. So in the beginning, the triggers will keep coming up as you're growing emotionally. But as you mature, as you emotionally evolve, those rounds it'll be longer and longer before you meet that trigger again, because you've done the work. But that is life, right? It is this constant motion. There is no one or the other. It's a full living, breathing system. So just know that with that same movement, you need to move your emotions through, and choosing joy on a day-to-day basis is probably one of the most powerful things you can do in your life. I know Deepak Chopra now is dedicating, the last of his work to talking about joy. Like, joy is the greatest act of resistance. And if you do not have joy in your life, you have missed the purpose of life. So I hope that kind of, drives you for the next change. And I hope this was really helpful. I know that we didn't get to circadian alignment and dinacharya, but hopefully you can see that because we are nature, we're kind of aligned to it, and we need to align to these things, and things kind of happen in a circular fashion.
Yeah. No, this was amazing. I know we're out of time, unfortunately, but there are lots of lovely comments, Simran, that have been posted here from various folks, and we'll make sure that you get to see them. And if some of the questions we'll put onto the group, and Simran, if you get a chance, if you can answer them, that'll be great.
Yeah.
And I'd love for the community to show their love through the emoji shower. But what one of the things that we might even look at doing for everybody is to get Simran to be a integral part of a different community we create just around integrating Ayurvedic principles into daily living. Because sometimes it comes down to practically, how do I deal with this? How do I deal with that? And then we'll hopefully figure that out. But in any case, thank you again, Simran. It was a lovely, wonderful conversation.
This was so great. I put our website in the chat, takeyourpotion.com. I will say for one-on-one coaching, I don't have as much time for that. I do that, but I do limit the number of clients. I think a community like this might be actually the better way to do it, just because I am quite busy. And when I do take on clients, I really like to focus.
Perfect. Great. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.